What information should be gathered after a near-miss incident occurs? Where those involved lived at the time of the incident. The activities that were being carried out at the time. The cost of the project at the time of the incident. The names of next of kin for the people involved.
What is the best way to make sure that a ladder is secure and will not slip? Ask someone to stand with their foot on the bottom rung. Secure it at the top. Wedge the bottom of the ladder with blocks of wood. Secure it at the bottom. Information about emergency procedures on site should be explained at which point? Within 2 weeks of start date. During overtime hours. During break or lunchtime. At the site induction. Exposure to which of the following is most likely to result in dermatitis? Wet cement, glass, heavy brick, dry wood. If your job needs a hot work permit, what 2 things would you expect to have to do? Know where all the fire extinguishers are kept on site. Write a site evacuation plan. Know how to refill fire extinguishers. Have a fire extinguisher close to the work. Check for signs of fire when you stop work.
What potential disease is this worker unprotected from? Nasal cancer, dermatitis, skin cancer, tetanus. If you find an injured person and you are on your own, what should you do first? Move the injured person to a safe place, then find your supervisor. Assess the situation. Do not put yourself in danger. Inform your supervisor that someone has been injured. Ask the injured person what happened and then find your supervisor. If a worker is feeling stressed, when is the best time for them to address the issue? Only after the stress level gets so bad it causes an accident. As soon as they realize they have symptoms of stress. In about 6 months, if the issue is still causing them stress. When they have finished work and they are away from the workplace.
What does this sign mean? Emergency shower. Toilets and shower facilities. Fire sprinklers above. Emergency eye wash. When assembling a mobile access tower near overhead electric cables, which one of the following statements is true? The cables must be treated as live until it is confirmed they are dead. The cables can be treated as dead if the work is going to take less than 30 minutes. The cables do not present a danger because mobile access towers are insulated. Personal protective equipment, PPE, will keep workers safe until it is confirmed that the cables are dead.
What is the main cause of long-term health issues in the construction industry? Being struck by a vehicle, breathing in hazardous dust and fumes, slipping and tripping, exposure to loud noise.
The effects of mental health issues at work can be managed by Whatt. Call in sick to work regularly. Avoid personal discussions with our workmates. Talk about the issues with a supervisor or manager. Hide any difficulties from colleagues and your supervisor.
When should you wear safety footwear on site? Only when working inside, until the site starts to look finished. All the time, only when working at ground level.
Which one of the following is a safe way of moving a mobile access tower? Using manual effort to pull from the top and the base. Using manual effort pushing only from the base. Towing with a site vehicle with a tow rope attached to the top. Towing with a site vehicle with a tow rope attached to the base. When selecting suitable personal protective equipment, PPE, for the user, which factors should be considered? Fit and weight. Price and size. Cost and colour. Size and fit. A worker spills a large quantity of petrol on their clothes when refuelling a piece of equipment. What should they do? Wipe it off with a cloth. Change their clothes immediately. Nothing. It will evaporate quickly. Put some other clothes on top.
What is the main reason for attending a site induction? To get to know other new employee. Site rules and hazards will be explained. Permits to work will be written and handed out. To create the method statements for the site.
Waste materials should be segregated into different types. What are the two main reasons for this? To avoid pollution. To support recycling. To fill landfill. To prevent theft. To save money. How can asbestos be correctly identified? By putting a piece in water and seeing if it dissolves. By getting a sample analysed in a laboratory. The distinct colour of the dust. It is clear from the strong smell of the dust.
Why should you wear Wellington boots when working in wet cement? To stop your trousers getting wet. To prevent dermatitis and skin burns. To allow you to walk faster through the cement. To keep your feet warm.
For the use of respiratory protective equipment, RPE, why is face-fit testing important? To check that the colour matches work uniforms. To eliminate all accidents in the workplace. It ensures that the equipment will operate effectively. It means the equipment will need less maintenance.
You have witnessed a serious accident on your site and are to be interviewed by a Health and Safety Executive (HSE) inspector. What should you do? Cooperate and tell the inspector exactly what you saw. Ask other workers what you should tell the inspector. Not tell the inspector anything and ask them to talk to your supervisor. Ask your supervisor what you should tell the inspector.
What is an advantage of adopting safe manual handling methods? You can leave work earlier that day. You can increase your strength and lift heavier loads. You can lift heavier and awkward loads more often. You can protect your back, reducing the risk of injury.
If you have a minor accident, who should report it? The subcontractor. The Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Anyone who saw the accident. You, if possible. What is the most likely source of hepatitis in this image? What are the two most important reasons why waste should be segregated on site? The waste will take up less room in a skip. So the client can check what is being thrown away. To make sure the labourer has enough work to do. It is generally more cost-effective to dispose of segregated waste. So the wastes can be used or recycled more easily.
What is the main risk to this worker wearing only these items of personal protective equipment, PPE? Eye injuries, cuts and abrasions to skin, breathing in harmful dust, damage to hearing.
What is the main hazard associated with the movement of plant and machinery around site? Drivers getting motion sickness from the movement of the machine. Pedestrians walking too close to moving machinery and being crushed. Members of the public being poisoned by the exhaust fumes. Existing building collapse from vibrations of the moving machinery. Which two things should workers be briefed about when starting work on site for the first time? The name of the company owner. Welfare facilities. Public transport timetable. Overtime payment schedule. Emergency procedures. Which of the following is bad practice when organising site transport? One-way systems for vehicles. Limiting the speed of vehicles on site. Barriers to keep pedestrians away from mobile plant and vehicles. Pedestrians and mobile plant using the same routes. Why do building sites use a 110-volt electricity supply instead of a 230-volt supply? It is less likely to kill you. It is cheaper. It is safer for the environment. It moves faster along the cables. Lone workers are most at risk from what? Violence, sleeplessness, paranoia, humiliation. Which one of the statements about storing materials on a working platform is correct? Materials can be stored unsecured, but they must be above guardrail height. Materials do not need to be secured if they are going to be there for less than an hour. Materials can be stored anywhere, even if they pose a trip hazard or block the walkway. Materials must be stored so they can't fall, and the platform must be able to take their weight. You need to move a load that might be too heavy for you. You cannot divide it into smaller parts and there is no one to help you. What should you do? Try to lift it using the correct lifting methods. Lift and move the load quickly to avoid injury. Get a forklift truck, even though you have not been trained to use it. Do not move the load until you have a safe way of doing it. Your supervisor asks you to drive a dumper truck, but you have not driven one before. What should you do? Watch other dumpers to see how they are operated. Tell your supervisor that you are not trained and so cannot operate it. Operate the dumper in an open area in case you make a mistake. Ask a trained driver how to operate it safely. What should you do if you see a dumper being driven too fast? Nothing, as dumpers are allowed to speed. Try to catch the dumper and speak to the driver. Report it to the police. Keep out of its way and report it.
What should you do if you run out of the water you are using to control dust? Ask everyone to clear the area and then carry on. Put on additional respiratory protection. Carry on, but get someone to sweep up afterwards. Stop and refill the water. If the toilets on your site are dirty or do not flush, what should you do? Tell the person in charge of the site about the problem. Try to fix the faulty toilet yourself. See if you can use public toilets nearby. Try not to use the toilets while you are at work. What is hand-arm vibration syndrome? HAVS. A mild skin rash that will go away eventually. A serious skin condition affecting the arms that will not clear up. A range of conditions that can lead to permanent damage. An injury caused by severe frostbite to the hands.
What should you do if you have to work in a confined space but there is no rescue plan? Assume that a rescue team or plan is not necessary and do the job. Get someone to stand at the opening with a rope. Carry out the job in short spells. Do not enter until a rescue plan is in place.
What should you do if you are required to use access equipment that you have not been trained to use? Do the job if it won't take long. Ask someone else to do it. Stop work and speak to your supervisor. Get a ladder instead.
What should be done before adjusting an electric hand tool? You should never adjust an electric hand tool yourself. Switch it off and remove the plug from the socket. Put tape over the power switch before adjusting. Switch it off, but leave the plug in the socket. What can wearing respiratory protective equipment, RPE, prevent workers from? Vertigo when working at height. Breaking bones. Noise pollution. Breathing in dusts and fumes.
Preserving old buildings is important for contributing to an area's Whaat. Historical record, infrastructure, cost of living, house prices. What is the organisation the Samaritans? A political party which supports looking after vulnerable people. A trade union organisation offering financial and legal support. A charity that provides emotional support for people who are struggling to cope. A charity offering construction training to young, vulnerable people.
Which of the following statements best describes a near miss? An incident where someone was injured and nearly had to take time off work. An incident where someone was injured and nearly had to go to hospital. An incident where you were just too late to see what happened. An incident that nearly resulted in injury or damage.
Which requirement must be met before operating a power tool? You must be trained and competent. You must be over 18 years old. You must only operate it when your supervisor is present. You must have a gold CSCS card.
How can you help reduce the risk of hand-arm vibration when using a vibrating tool? Use more force on the tool. Do not grip the tool too tightly. Hold the tool more tightly. Hold the tool at arm's length.
What must happen before each shift starts when working in an excavation? Someone must go in and sniff the air to see if it is safe. A supervisor should watch from the top for the first hour. A competent person must inspect the excavation. A supervisor should stay in the excavation for the first hour. When are personal fall arrest systems to be used? During a night shift, the majority of the time, in the morning, only as a last resort.